Hot news today. Dow jumps more than 1,000 points as US and China agree to slash tariffs for 90 days. India-Pakistan ceasefire. Live updates. US announces new sanctions against Iran. Dow jumps more than 1,000 points as US and China agree to slash tariffs for 90 days. News of a US agreement with China to temporarily ease tariffs sent stocks soaring on Monday. The S&P 500 rose 184 points, or 3.3%, to close at 5,844, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average leapt 1,161 points, or 2.8%, to close at 42,410. Early morning gains helped the S&P 500 index float back above where it was on April 2nd. The day President Trump announced sweeping tariffs that threatened to upend the global economy and spark a recession. The Nasdaq Composite rose 4.4%, providing a measure of relief to tech companies at risk of retaliatory Chinese tariffs and export restrictions. Nvidia and Apple shares gained 5.4% and 6.3%, respectively. In a joint statement released by the White House on Monday, the US and China on Monday announced that they would substantially lower tariffs for 90 days. The agreement was struck over the weekend in Switzerland, where Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and US Trade Administrator Jameson Greer met with a Chinese trade delegation. Starting May 14th, both countries will lower tariffs by 115%, according to the White House. That will bring the US tariff on Chinese imports down to 30% from as high as 145%, and China's rate on American goods down to 10% from 125%. The 10% baseline tariff and other US measures will remain in place. UBS Global Wealth Management projects. The US tariff on Chinese imports will ultimately settle around 30% to 40%. Investors will now be focused on signs that the temporary fix can be turned into a lasting agreement, said Ulrike Hoffmann-Burchard, Chief Investment Officer at UBS Global Wealth Management, in a research note. The value of the dollar climbed against other major currencies, while crude oil prices jumped more than 3% during midday trading. Yields on the 10-year Treasury also rose to 4.5%, the highest it's been since April 11th. Reference: CBS News. India-Pakistan ceasefire. Live updates. Mirror deployments by India to counter Pakistan's military build-up. The Indian defense establishment was enraged when Pakistan broke the agreement to halt all cross-border military operations from 5 p.m. on Saturday by launching another wave of drones across the whole Western Front later that night. Lieutenant General Guy announced on Sunday that India will respond with a fierce and punitive response if Pakistan broke the bilateral agreement, with Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi extending full authority to commanders for counteraction in the kinetic domain to any such follies. In the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror slaughter, Pakistan has relocated many reserve army units, tanks, and Chinese-made SH-15 self-propelled 155mm howitzers closer to the line of control and the international border. India, of course, had conducted mirror deployments of its military. According to sources, the Shakagar Bulge, which protrudes into India between the Chenab and Ravi rivers, was one of the locations where the Pakistan Army amassed a large number of tanks and armoured vehicles. Air India grounds flights to 8 cities. In light of the continuing tensions between India and Pakistan, Air India issued a travel advisory to its passengers on Tuesday. The airline announced the cancellation of Tuesday, May 13th, flights to and from Jammu, Leh, Jodhpur, Amritsar, Bhuj, Jamnagar, Chandigarh and Rajkot. To ensure the safety of its customers, Indigo had also cancelled its flights. US announces new sanctions against Iran. As talks proceed, The latest sanctions target 3 Iranian citizens and an Iranian entity with links to Tehran's Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, also known by its Persian acronym SPND. Washington. The United States announced new sanctions Monday against Iran over its nuclear program, despite ongoing negotiations between the two countries over the sensitive issue. The latest sanctions target 3 Iranian citizens and an Iranian entity with links to Tehran's Organization of Defensive Innovation and Research, also known by its Persian acronym SPND. Iran continues to substantially expand its nuclear program and carry out dual-use research and development activities applicable to nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons delivery systems, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said in a statement. He said Iran is the only country in the world without nuclear weapons that enriches uranium to 60% purity. That level far exceeds the 3.67% maximum set under the 2015 nuclear deal, which US President Donald Trump exited during his first term. Building a nuclear weapon requires 90% enrichment. The United States announced the new sanctions a day after a 4th round of talks with Iran concluded. No major breakthrough was announced after the talks, but both sides voiced cautious optimism. The discussions began last month and aimed to seal a new accord that would prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Tehran denies seeking to build one. The sanctions freeze any assets that the targeted people and entity may have in America and bans business dealings with them. They are aimed at 3 senior officials of the nuclear program and a company called Fuya Pars, Prospective Technologists. Advertisement: Fuya Pars Prospective. Technologists, also known as Ideal Vacuum, is an SPND-affiliated company that has attempted to procure from foreign suppliers, as well as indigenously fabricate, equipment that could be applicable in nuclear weapons research and development, the State Department said. Except for the headline, this story has not been edited by NDTV staff and is published from a syndicated feed. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.